All right, folks, it is definitely time for the news and all along those lines. So we'll be talking about what's happening in the news and what's going on around the world. And we'll see who joins me and all along those lines. But definitely roofs collapse at Dominican Republic nightclub that kills at least 13. 13 are dead and over 90 hospital transfers after the roof of a Dominican Republic club collapsed and all along those lines. So that is some sad news coming out of South America and all along that kind of space. Ukrainian troops advance into Russia's Belgorod, Zelensky confirms. So Zelensky confirms Ukrainian troops in Russia's Belgorod region, and definitely that is something going on as he is saying the war must return to Russia. And Zelensky confirms for the first time the Ukrainian troops are active in that area. And it looks like a leadership crisis is compounding the decline of the Palestinian cause. So that is something that is being reported by the Wall Street Journal and all along those lines. And hundreds of firefighters are battling massive blaze at a Paris recycling plant. So that's something that is going on in France and all in that kind of way. So a lot of things taking place in the world. Israel kills 58 Palestinians in Gaza in 24 hours. And definitely it looks like according to the AP news, Israeli strike kills 25 people in Gaza. So there are different numbers that are coming out and everything in that space, but definitely that is something that is being reported as well. In the Middle East Eye, the witness to the media tent bombing said, "We did everything to save Mansour." So definitely that's something that folks are talking about out of the Middle East. And Prince Harry is singled out for inferior treatment over security arrangements and all along those lines. So Prince Harry's court case over security in the UK. So he arrives at the court to fight downgraded UK police protection ruling. And lawyer says Prince Harry was unfairly treated when stripped of UK security detail. Algeria and Mali banned flights amid a diplomatic crisis. So Algeria and Mali blocked flights from each other after drone was shot down in that part of the world. So Algeria closed their airspace to Mali aircraft as drone now escalates. So it looks like we have some drone warfare in that area as well. And South Korea fires a warning shot as North Korea soldiers cross the DMC border. So definitely that's something that we're hearing as well. And the Houthis say the intel commander killed as suspected U.S. strikes pound Yemen overnight. So far from being cowed by U.S. airstrikes, Yemen Houthis may be relishing them. Yemen, Yemen Houthi rebels say latest U.S. strike killed 2 days after Trump posted a bomb video. So Jeff Trump told the airstrike on the Houthis, showing the video, "Will never sink our ship again." So that's something that is going on in terms of things that Trump's got going on as well. And Trump's DHS revokes legal status for migrants who entered the U.S. on some Biden era policies. So Trump DHS orders 900,000 Biden era migrants to leave immediately. So the letter warns nearly 200 GE appliance workers to leave the U.S. as the immigration program ends. So it looks like some of the immigrants are scrambling as humanitarian parole protections are terminated. So, and the world markets plunged with Japan's Nikkei diving nearly 8% after that big Wall Street meltdown that was reported yesterday, or a couple of days ago. I got to see how it's going on today as well. Marco Rubio said he'd protect life-saving aid overseas. Doge disagreed. So that's something else that's going on in the news as well. And Myanmar fighting continues despite post-earthquake ceasefires. So definitely forecast of a week of rain adds to woes faced by the victims of the Myanmar quake as death toll tops 3,500. And definitely it looks like it's still rising as well. Europe just had the warmest March on record. Record global temperatures in March illustrate the threat to the climate goal. March hottest on record in Europe with warning of harsher heat waves and wildfires this summer. So it does look like that's going to be some rough weather coming out of that way. Israel's Supreme Court considers Netanyahu's attempt to fire the spies chief, and after protests, High Court lets lawyers for bereaved argue for Shin Bet's chief ouster. So ruckus in Israeli court as hearings begin on Netanyahu bid to sack that particular spy chief and all along those lines. And yesterday it was reported Gaza paramedics were shot in upper body with intent to kill, according to what the Red Crescent says. Dad, help me. We were targeted by the Israelis. Audio and video capture last moments of aid workers killed in Gaza. Israel walks back its account of the killing of 15 medics in Gaza after the video seemed to contradict it, and that was from a couple of days ago, and all along those lines. And a Canadian couple, likely the only business owners on Australia's Norfolk Island to face U.S. tariffs. So, U.S. defense tariffs on remote islands of penguins and seals. So, definitely penguins and vaccines. Can negotiations save Trump's oddest tariff targets? Is what some people are asking as well. And Lutnick says Trump tariffs on uninhabited islands prevent other countries from using loopholes. I guess they're trying to use it as a way to deter any kind of loopholes that might go on as well. And Wharton claims the sole possession of first in new U.S. News MBA ratings. So the best business school in the world for 2025, it looks like it's Wharton. And definitely that is what is out there in terms of those particular rankings. And Hamas must have no role in Gaza governance, says Macron in a meeting with Sisi. So leaders of France, U.S., Egypt, and Jordan hold call to discuss Gaza, France says, and Macron to urge Israel resumption of Gaza aid while visiting key Egypt ports. So definitely there is a report that France, Egypt, and Jordan say the Palestinian Authority must govern post-war Gaza and all in those lines. So we'll figure out who's to govern and all along that kind of space. And red carpet for an accused war criminal. Why is the ICC under fire? After softball visit to Hungary, Netanyahu strikes out in D.C. meeting with Trump. So apparently he had a meeting in that area, so he was meeting with Trump as well. And like I said, the Democratic Republic Congo floods, dozen die after torrential rain hammers Kinshasa, and it looks like 33 were killed as floods leave half of the Congo's capital underwater. And garbage piles up on Birmingham streets as a sanitation strike in the UK city. So garbage is piling up in Birmingham as the UK's city sanitation strike enters its fifth week. And Ben strike, they're saying, is a threat to the public health in that part of the world. And the Belgian prince loses his bid for legal benefits on top of Royal Alliance. So the Belgian prince loses bid for benefits on top of £300,000 Royal Alliance. So definitely that is something else that is being reported as well. And Russia is massing 30,000 troops in Donbass for a major offensive. So that is something going on. Putin believes he has the upper hand as Ukraine braces for a new Russian spring offensive. So that's something going on. So it looks like some of the Ukrainians are invading into Russia, and Russia is looking like they're trying to attack Donbass. So it looks like this war is going to be going for a while. Aid cuts threaten progress toward ending deaths in pregnancy and childbirth, the WHO warns. One pregnant woman dies every 2 minutes globally, shocking new figures reveal. So trends in maternal mortality from the 2000 to 2023 looks like the aid cuts could leave more women dying in pregnancy and birth, according to what the UN is reporting. And Taiwan says China is using generative AI to ramp up disinformation and divide the country. So challenges to China below the threshold military strategy in its near seas. So it looks like even generative AI may be playing a role in the conflict as well. So we'll see what's happening in the U.S. And all along those lines, that was a number of world headlines. So we'll see what's happening in the U.S. and see what's going on in that space as well. So, like I said, a lot is taking place. Treasury Secretary Bessent says China's escalation was a big mistake. The country playing with losing hands. So, China tariff escalation, a big mistake, U.S. Treasury Secretary says. So, definitely the U.S. Treasury Secretary calls China's retaliation to Trump tariffs a big mistake. U.S. politics live and everything like that. So the Guardian is talking about what's going on in that space. And stock market today, Dow futures rise 1,100 points. China vows to fight to the end, and China accuses the U.S. of blackmail after Trump threatens more tariffs. So China says it will fight to the end after Trump threatened to impose even more tariffs. And the Supreme Court clears way for deportations and a stock market fake out is what some people are saying. Supreme Court overturns block on Trump administration's Venezuelan deportations, and the Supreme Court lifts the hold on the Venezuelan deportations to El Salvador for now. And Supreme Court is also requiring non-citizens to challenge detention and removal in Texas. And Trump administration live updates. Top trade officials face Senate questions as White House seeks to calm tariff fears. So tariffs, Iran nuclear talks, deportation rulings, and more. There's a lot going on in the United States. And Trump envoy Witkoff is to lead a high-stakes nuclear negotiations with Iran. Iran skeptical over coming U.S. talks, according to Iranian officials. Trump says the U.S. will hold direct talks with Iran. Tehran says there'll be indirect negotiations. So definitely, even in the conversation with Trump and Netanyahu in the Oval Houses, the full text says we're having direct talks with Iran. So that's what's going on in that space. And definitely, it looks like Harvard, UCLA, Stanford, among schools across the U.S., reporting that they have students whose visas have been revoked without notice. So citizenship won't save you, according to an article in the NPR. And free speech advocates say student arrest should worry all. So even one of the Rhode Island School of Design students had their visa revoked as well. And in the rain-soaked South, a warning to prepare for generational floods still to come. So the National Weather Service is issuing life-saving tornado and flood warnings and all in that space. So children and first responders among 24 dead as tornadoes, severe weather, and flooding ravage several states. And RFK Jr. is telling the CDC to change its guidance on fluoride in drinking water. So that's something else that we're seeing as well, this notion of what's going on with the drinking water, and that is being reported as well. So RFK calls for an end of fluoride in the drinking water and all in that kind of space. So after the Utah ban, so RFK Jr. says he plans to tell the CDC to stop recommending fluoride in drinking water. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. In Red, Wyoming, hundreds gathered to protest Trump and Musk. So left-leaning protesters share their vision of an ideal America at anti-Trump rally, and that was in Wyoming. 14 eye-catching hands-off protest signs from anti-Trump demonstrators. So I know that Gretchen's there in Wyoming. It is a very red state, but apparently there's some people that are even protesting in that area as well. And Social Security wrongly told disabled people and some seniors that benefits ended, causing alarm. Social Security recipients got erroneous message that payments were stopped, and the Social Security website kept crashing as DOJ demands cuts to its IT staff. Social Security Administration is probing the origin of the website portal outage. And the Trump administration fired another female U.S. military leader. So the Trump administration fired a senior Navy female officer at NATO. She appeared on a woke list. So Trump administration fired Navy admiral at NATO targeted by conservative group. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And Europe is urging China to address possible trade diversion caused by tariffs. The tsunami is coming. China's global exports are just getting started, and EU's von der Leyen urges China to ensure responsible tariff response. And at least 25 were killed as historic flood disaster leaves town underwater after deadly barrage of severe weather. Significant flooding continues to wreak havoc across Kentucky and Tennessee. Flood-weary residents face rising rivers despite rain finally stopping in the central U.S. So definitely that's something going on. And we had some of that rain yesterday, and who knows, maybe some more is coming as well. I think there was some this morning also. Peter Navarro says that Vietnam's 0% tariff offer is not enough. It's the non-tariff cheating that matters. Navarro says, I guarantee no recession. Okay. So Donald Trump senior aide says, I guarantee no recession, and we'll see if that holds up or not, but he is guaranteeing that we won't face a recession. And Chief Justice Roberts pauses the deadline for return of Maryland man who was mistakenly deported. So Supreme Court temporarily blocks the order to return the man that was wrongly deported to El Salvador. And the Atlantic is saying a path of perfect lawlessness. So definitely that's going on as well. And Doomsday Mom, Lori Daybell, delivers opening statement in her latest murder trial. Idaho mom who killed two of her kids goes on trial over the death of her husband, and all in that space. And Maine sues a Trump administration over funding freeze after the trans athlete dispute. So Maine sues the Trump administration over the freeze on school meal funds, and Maine sues uh, USDA to be exact, over the funding freeze, and definitely that had to do with Title IX funding for school luncheons and all along those lines. So lots going on in that sense of the world, and China lashes out at J.D. Vance for calling Chinese people peasants. So Beijing calls the U.S. Vice President ignorant over Chinese peasants' remarks, and Beijing attacks J.D. Vance Chinese peasant remarks in that area and everything like that. So Democrats reveal their top targets to flip in 2026, and apparently they're targeting 35 Republicans in the midterm elections and all in that space. And South Sudan says U.S. visa ban caused by mistaken nationality. Rubio says U.S. is revoking all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders, and two North Carolina lawmakers employ Marco Rubio to reverse plans to revoke the visas for the South Sudanese. So, and there's even a Republican fracture on Trump's tax bill as Johnson is urging the House to back the Senate. So, how to make 3.8 trillion disappear in a federal budget? That's what the folks in Congress are trying to figure out. And Mike Johnson races to win over holdouts on the Trump budget blueprint. So, definitely that's something going on as well. And Trump doesn't give Israel a break on tariffs, despite the Netanyahu's visit. So it looks like they'll still be having tariffs in that area as well. So definitely lots going on in the world and everything like that. I understand that there was even a soccer coach that was charged with murder after a missing 13-year-old boy was found dead and everything like that. And that was in California, where the California youth soccer coach was charged with murdering the missing 13-year-old. And the French, I should say, are pushing retaliation against U.S. tech. Ireland is balking as the EU splits over the Trump tariffs. So a lot's going on with these tariffs. I'm gonna see what definitely my good friend Jacoby and see if anybody joins us shortly. I got Sasha Star what they have to say about these tariffs and all along those lines, because it still seems to be the big news story is the tariffs and what's going on with the tariffs. So Sasha, how are things going there in Canada? What's taking place in your world, and how are you reacting to the tariffs?
Well, Canada is doing fine. With tariffs, there is a really new picture is um, arising with these tariffs. Apparently, uh, Trump is attempting to have a world racket simply by pushing and bullying all other countries into submission so they will pay money to Trump or United States, doesn't matter, for some kind of protection. So here's what he's talking to European Union is that you owe us a lot of money for your prosperity, for everything what you achieved, and you've been protected by US all that time, and now it's a payback time, baby. You must pay, and until you will pay all the money that you owe. Actually, it doesn't even say what's the number, how much exactly European Union owes to Trump, because I think he learned something when he was telling that Ukraine owes $500 million, $500 billion, and then it was $350 billion, and it was $40 million, and then it was 25 cents. So nobody knows exactly
Well,
what it is. So
he
he's doing the same thing with the European Union. Now, China is working 24 hours a day to convince European Union and all other countries, including Japan, South Korea, to join China to create an alliance which will withstand all the pressures from United States. And if no understanding will be achieved, then completely exclude United States from any trades, any agreements, and just let it do whatever they want to do on their own. And Trump will get his money from European Union and from Ukraine or whoever he wants to get money, and we'll see what's happened out of it.
Yep, that's a good point and everything. Definitely. Hold on a second. I think that Nick has the whole Mickey Mouse thing going again as well. You can't hear
I
you.
gotta help Nick fix that.
Yeah, he's got to fix that. He's got his thing
You
going
gotta,
with his noise.
maybe
You got to go
after
out
the
again.
show,
You got to go out again and everything because yeah, he's
he needs
having
it
issues.
fixed for tonight too.
Yeah, he's
So.
got to get it fixed for the lawyer show. By the way, Sasha, Trump apparently said yesterday that the EU must buy 350 billion of U.S. energy in order to get Trump's release, so tariff release. So he put a figure out there. I don't know that they're going to pay 350 billion. That's the figure that he put out there. So I don't know your
I
thoughts.
missed that.
350 billion that he's asking for.
Okay.
Everybody just hates making America great again. I mean, the left, it doesn't matter what he does. It's
Well,
wrong.
if it made
Yeah.
America great again, I would go along with you.
yeah.
But quite honestly, personally, before the MAGA cult came around, I really thought America was great. But they managed to spread and hypnotize people to believe America wasn't great. They spread fear, point and blame. But actually, I think America was already great. Now, what I do find ironic is not once have they gone to release the Epstein files, but they certainly are doing a program called SAVE. What is SAVE doing? It's not saving you money. It's not saving you on groceries. It's not saving you on your living expenses or your mortgage. SAVE. Who is it really saving? They're trying to alter, disenfranchise our voting rights. That's what they're doing up there. They're altering what you can do to be part of America, take your rights away from you, as opposed to really just fixing America and making it affordable again, which is something they're not doing.
Yeah, speaking of that, I had a question for Rick because I know Rick follows history like I follow history as well. But apparently, Trump said recently, I think it was sometime yesterday, if not earlier today, that high tariffs may have prevented the Great Depression. And apparently,
well, no, that's exactly backwards. It's exactly backwards. Anybody who saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Ben Stein is the boring teacher saying, Bueller, Bueller, you got that lesson right in that frickin' movie 40 years ago. The Smoot-Hawley tariffs, or the Hawley-Smoot tariffs, froze the world economy that was already fragile from an overvalued stock market and led to 10 years of depression and World War II. Germany, hyperinflation leads to fascism, leads to World War II. It was bad times. Plus, I keep saying this, the Spanish flu screwed up everybody's brains back then, so everybody was all dumb and ready for fascism and violence and just angry. And we might have the same thing if our brains are screwed from COVID.
It could be that. And everything, by the way, I was just going to make a point about the Smoot-Hawley tariff just really quickly. I want to hear from you as well, Nick. But
revenue for a government that's bankrupt because of the insane spending of the Biden administration.
They're bankrupt yet. We keep printing.
Internet for all. No dollar left unspent for all.
I'm going to talk over Nick as he talks over everybody else.
Nick likes to talk over everybody else now, trying to actually get the message out, but he's not going to do that because
he's actually not saying what's correct.
Good for America.
Not bringing money into the country that way. Nick, just
the Canadians scream about it.
Nick,
the Americans are
we heard your point. You're saying the same thing.
Can I ask a question?
Hold on, time out. Nick, Kim has a question. Time out. Nick. Kim has a question. Kim has a question.
Why does Trump go around pointing fingers saying that, other countries owe us money for helping them? Don't we probably owe other countries from, hundreds of thousands of years ago? I don't know. For helping us. I mean, somewhere I think that circle goes around. So should they be, collecting a debt on us for helping us. I mean, I don't think we're the only muscle in the world that helps.
That USAID program, we just gave money away to all of our enemies.
That's your choice.
Oh, one more question.
Your choice decided to do it. Thank you very much.
You name the enemy.
I can answer
I want to open
Now we're
Pandora's
finally
box.
riding the ship. We're not
I
going to
can
do
answer
that.
Kim's question.
We can't afford that
Nick
stupid
is saying the same.
liberal policies. Liberal.
No, okay, thank you. So I can answer what Kim is actually asking. Trump is extremely transactional. Trump does not care about anything. He wants people to kiss the ring. Honestly, when he was talking about tariffs and the reason he's not going to negotiate on tariffs, or one, his confusion around tariffs is the problem. One, he says that he wants to use the money brought in from tariffs to replace the actual income tax. That's impossible. The math doesn't work that way. Then on top of that, he's saying he wants to use tariffs as a negotiation piece. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it replacing the actual money coming in and as a negotiation piece. Also, he wants those negotiation pieces where the actual countries come to Mar-a-Lago and actually kiss the ring. So he wants people to respect him and bow down to him. And that's not actually leadership. That's actually being a bully. What the actual U.S. did with USAID was actually using soft power and actually soft negotiation so we can actually have some type of influence in the particular places that we actually go to and actually have to deal with on a regular basis. That's what USAID was. And if we are to be a quote unquote global leader, that is actually USAID. If we are to help people, that is USAID. So what Trump is doing is actually retreating us from leadership, isolating us from the world, and making us look as small as his baby hands. That is what we're doing right now.
However, so there's the madman theory of leadership, that if you put a complete insane dick in charge of a country, that country might get some of what it wants by scaring all the other countries. There's also good cop, bad cop. And even though Trump's a complete dick and hold on, and was called the dumbest student a Wharton professor ever had, we may, get some concessions from some countries, which is not a bad thing. John Fetterman, the Democratic senator, says if you're cheering against Trump, you're cheering against America. Now, we all know Trump is a dumb freaking asshole, but there may be some benefits. No, the damage is, there's still a ton more damage than benefits. The stock market is still down a ton. International trust has been wrecked, but we may get some good trade deals. And Sasha, I bought Soxel yesterday. I sold it this morning. I made $27. Thank you.
Yay, don't forget to watch Modern Investing with Sasha, because definitely this is a time you need to reconsider how your investing is during this big storm. But I also want to talk about something else interesting. I had read that over 1,000 of the Golden Visa Become American cards have been purchased. Now, I want people to consider who's purchasing this and what criteria are we considering that they become American? Are they, the big mafia in other countries? Are they controllers of, slaves in other countries? The other thing I want you to consider while we're handing out these gold Visa cards to only the people who can afford them, which are $1 million each, that's not really going to clean up our debt, but they're going to be buying up our public lands, which have come up for sale. Our public lands, our national parks, will be going up for sale. And this is not a good thing, because the only people who can afford to buy all of that are the people buying these gold Visa cards. Now, these gold Visa cards, the people who have been buying them are people from Saudi Arabia who are now becoming immediate citizens, and people from Russia. I just want you to consider this while you cheer these things on, that they're not as good as you think.
So the Golden Visa, you said it's $1 million. It's really $5 million.
I said 5 million. I thought I said 5.
Okay, well, so the people buying I'm sure are Russian oligarchs, because you can have $5 billion in Russia And if you can't get it out of Russia, and if you can't get out of Russia, you're always in danger that Putin will decide, I don't like you anymore, will
And
take your
Saudis.
billions away and throw you in prison or throw you out a window.
It is the
But
whole
we also
$5
need
million,
two more.
the whole $5 million visa thing is a money-making scheme from Trump. Hence the reason why he sold it like a Bitcoin, like he does with his stakes.
But
on
think
that-
about
on the
who's
actual
buying
airplane.
them. Think about
Yeah,
who's buying
it's going to be people that are going to pledge fealty to Trump. That is why that's there. That has nothing to do with immigration. It is
Building
actually
his
he's
army.
trying to get rich people to buy into what he's saying.
But okay, so
But
it's
then
also,
they
wait,
can
wait,
buy the
real quick.
lands. They can buy
but,
the public
but it's
lands.
Just real
also
quick.
no. Hold on.
Let me finish my point. Just real quick. You had brought up John Fetterman and how John
We need more
Fetterman said
America.
that
We
you
don't need
had
any more of that. We need
about
rich
the
America.
whole.
This is a great
hey,
idea.
you're going
Let
to-
let
if you're-
Jacoby finish his freaking sentence.
and you're going to. John Fetterman said, "Hey, if you're cheering against Trump, you're cheering against the country." Well, John Fetterman is wrong in that sense. Nobody is cheering against the country. Nobody. What people want and hoped for is that he was going to do well. But being honest about a person is not cheering on the country bad. What we're trying to do is actually improve the country. This is where we fell into the trap with dealing with Israel and Netanyahu. Netanyahu himself is not the greatest of individuals. He has some flaws, and actually his policies and some of the things that he has said and done are wrong. And that doesn't mean that you're against Israel when you say that. We can't do the same in this country here, where we cannot criticize the person in charge for what they do and who they are. That's why John Fetterman is just trying to placate to both sides and play this, hey, I'm just a nice guy and like you too. That is wrong. That is what you get rolled for doing. That's not fighting back or actually trying to help people. That is actually just trying to play both sides. So no, it is
John
okay to
Fetterman's a true
criticize.
patriot, which the rest of the Democratic
That's-
Party isn't. The Democratic Party is all obstructionist. And what they do is every time they can have a chance to put America down, they do so. Every time they can put us in debt, they do so. Every time they can create some cause that most people find repugnant, they support it. And hence,
Bullshit.
not in charge anymore.
Hold on.
The
Hold on.
Democrats aren't in charge
Bullshit.
anymore.
The
I
Democrats,
wonder why.
most
Because America doesn't like them. And
most
this is the way it is.
Democrats,
You got to eat the humble
most
pie.
Democrats.
Let me go see if I can buy you some humble
Democratic-
pie,
Most
Jacoby. I'm going to give you
Democratic
some humble pie.
positions are favored by about 70% of people. Like some manner of like background checks for all gun purchases. Almost 70, 80, 90%, like stuff like that, people are in favor of. And Democrats represent popular positions. I want to add one more population that will be buying these golden visa cards, and that's Chinese industrialists. China has 120 industrial cities with more than 1 million people. China has a ton, thousands and thousands of people who make a shit ton of money off of factories. And from being a tourist and from seeing tourists, when you go to a foreign country, the money is like play money to you. You don't really understand how much it's worth. People can charge you whatever, and you'll be like, okay, it's just this fake freaking money. Chinese people, not necessarily all like evil government operatives, who are going to buy up all our farmland, just regular rich ass Chinese people will come over if they can buy these $5 million citizenship cards.
Yeah, you get rich, hard-working Chinese in America. What's wrong with that? Oh, I see. The Democratic position, we want more non-hardworking people to come into America.
I was saying something.
So he's got a great program.
Now we can talk the same.
Revenue to America.
I can talk longer than you, just to let you know. I have a little bit more wind because I'm a little bit younger. So I can keep on going longer than you can. So again, that whole card is no more than a money-making scheme. That's all it is. And then on top of that, the issue with what you had said, Nick, about the Democrats, blah 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 blah. But you ignore the fact that Donald Trump said told Americans not be stupid. Don't be panic hands. You ignore the fact that Donald Trump said that he wants to revoke the Constitution, even though you said that you love the Constitution. You ignore the fact that Donald Trump poo-pooed all over the U.S. during the campaign and complained about different places, different things, all this stuff. So the problem is that, again, one thing that we talk about here all the time on, through these debates is messaging. And this is why I push back so hard on the things that you say when you parrot these Republican talking points, Nick. You're just spreading the same old redundant message to try and make it stick. Well, I'm sorry it doesn't, because nobody, again, not even the MAGA Republicans who really, the Charlie Kirks of the world, hate the country. I'll say that. So no Democrat is sitting there hating the country. So let's squash that and actually have a legitimate discussion about actual things that are going on, instead of sitting here trying to name call and make things stick because that sounds cool and that'll make my side sound better.
Jacoby, you said something very important I agree with. If you listen to what Jacoby said, he said, quote, "The Golden Visa is a program to make money, and that's all it is." And I agree with you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So you and I should both applaud Donald Trump for creating a program that all it is designed to do is to make money for a broke federal government.
Hey,
So
speaking
it's a
of
great
Nick,
program.
Nick,
I hope we get more
Nick,
people.
Nick, hold on a second.
$5
Nick,
million.
Speaking
It
of
makes money
applauding,
for Trump. That's where the money is. It's not
it's
about
going
the
to Trump,
country.
but
He's making it for himself.
yeah,
What's
speaking of
wrong with
applauding
getting
and
revenue,
everything,
baby?
hey, hold on, both of you. Speaking of applauding and all along those lines, I did have something that I was going to bring up because we had our good friend, for Gretchen from Wyoming, and as you heard earlier, I said, because she said Wyoming is a very small country and all along those lines. But apparently there were mass protests in Wyoming. So apparently there are more liberal people in Wyoming, even though it's a deep red state. So that actually took place yesterday. So they had like thousands of people in Wyoming that were upset over the impact it was having on their farmland and other things. So what is our take on this? Because apparently even the folks in Wyoming, which is a deep red state, are not that happy with the tariffs.
So Wyoming is a farming ranching state. During Trump's first administration, farmer suicides went quite a bit up, and they're afraid that it's going to take away their meat producers, people who have cattle. It's already a tough business. The meat industry is controlled by 4 big meat conglomerates who own the slaughterhouses, and they determine the prices, and they squeeze the little farmers. And the farmers are shit scared that this is the end of their farms.
Speaking of a tough business, I want to toss it to Sasha. We got a question for Sasha, but I also want to toss something to Sasha because I was watching the news, local news yesterday, and they were talking to the brewers and everything, one of our local brewers here in North Carolina, and they were talking about the imports and the impact of the import coming from Canada. I didn't realize how many of the aluminum cans came from Canada, but apparently y'all import a lot of cans from Canada in order to get the beer and everything else filled and everything like that. So I'm just wondering your take on the prices of beer going up because the aluminum is going up, which apparently is a lot of it is coming from Canada.
Mark, you had answer to your own question. There's very little I can add to it. Now, my question would be to panel, especially to Rick and Nick. Yesterday I heard that Newsom, California's 5th biggest economy in the world, that as a state, it will charge or not charge their own duties and taxes and tariffs and whatever. And it may or may not correspond to those charged by United States. Is that possible? Is that real, or I misunderstood what he said?
It's unexplored territory. On Twitter, Logan Act was trending because of Newsom. The Logan Act says that only elected officials, while they're in office, may do this kind of negotiating with other countries. And Newsom's saying, no, I'm going to do my own. So the Logan Act is one of these laws that never gets enforced. So we'll see. He can try making private deals. and then he'll get sued by the federal government, and we'll see what the courts say.
Mm.
Interesting. Toby, I got a question for you. And one of our other favorite topics, and it involves Jason Whitlock, and I don't know who Jason Whitlock is, but just really before I get to the question, coming back to the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, apparently the great-granddaughter, yeah, because it said her great-grandfather, so that would be the great-granddaughter, I think, if I'm doing my family lineage, right, is against the whole Trump's tariffs, because she says that they're terrible. So her descendants are actually the ones that created the Scott-Hawley Act and everything, but she thinks that these new tariffs are terrible. But coming back to one of our favorite topics, DEI, and you're going to love this one because I saw this and I was going to bring it up to you and everything, but anybody else wants to jump in on it can. But apparently DEI got blamed for a bad call from Jason Whitlock on the Duke players in the Duke semifinal game, because they were saying that it was an over-the-back call, and he was saying that the black ref calling the white superstar Cooper Flag was an example of DEI gone wrong and everything like that. It made no sense to me, but I didn't know if you had any thoughts around this. And who the heck is Jason Whitlock?
So just to point out, Jason Whitlock is just the fat male version of Candace Owens.
Okay.
Both he and Candace Owens are only around because their shtick is to make racists feel comfortable about their racism. They're two of the first black people that those who have those feelings of some type of bigotry will point to and say, hey, this black person said. So Jason Whitlock is horrible. No, the over-the-back call happened. It's the same thing as the other calls that happened during the game where they called out of bounds on Duke, or they called an out of bounds on Houston when it turned out to be Duke who actually touched the ball. It doesn't matter. That's part of the game. Bad calls happen. It was just that Jason Whitlock that's what he pushes. His shtick that, hey, I'm going to make something to make a name for myself. Same thing with Kanye West, went to the extreme of it. So, yeah, I never listened to Jason Whitlock or Candace Owens because that's their old shtick.
Yeah, in sports, in high-stakes games, you don't have to just beat the other team. You have to beat the occasional bad call. You can't just blame a bad call. You have to be far enough ahead that you can withstand, because refs are human. And actually, if you looked at reffing, I would guess that refs' accuracy is higher than ever because we have video replay.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you look at the game, what happened, Duke blew the game because of bad inbounding by their own players. It had nothing to do with this other thing. And good play by Houston. They made 2 clutch 3-point shots in a row. So if you looked at it, Houston was playing good, Duke was playing bad, Duke lost, and Houston won. It was pretty simple. So then
Houston turned around and lost yesterday on
and Houston
as well because they almost walked, and definitely was not the most dramatic ending.
That's the way the game goes.
That's the way the game goes. The ball bounces sometimes your way, sometimes it doesn't bounce your way. That's life.
When it gets close, you choke, and that's what happened with Duke. Duke choked.
Houston choked on the other side.
Exactly.
That way, they were up 13 points against Florida with like 13 minutes or 15 minutes left, and then they lost. I'm going like, how could Houston do that? Well, same way Duke did it. They were winning, and then all of a sudden they lost.
And truthfully, don't get me wrong, Houston wasn't supposed to win that game because Florida has been the best team the whole year. They've actually had the deepest team in terms of especially big men across the board. They do have a dominant guard who actually showed up near the end of the game. But again, they were supposed to beat Houston. Houston is a very defensive-heavy team. LJ Cryer is actually he's a good backcourt player. He can shoot the 3 here and there. But the problem is they don't have the actual firepower to keep up with a Florida. So what they did is the game was played very physical, very defense-heavy. It reminded me of the 40 minutes of hell that the Arkansas Razorbacks used to use way back when. But the problem is that Florida just wore them down, and their big men were gone. So then at that final, when they started catching up and cutting into that lead, they couldn't do anything. Duke had the best starting 5 out of the whole country, but they didn't have anything in the back end, and that's what they ran into. And they had never really played. Every time they had a close game, they really choked, and that's
they
where
ran
they
into it. They ran into have run into a bench. Hey, Rick, one of your favorite topics, which is out there, is technology and AI and everything. So apparently it came in very handy, and Kim will be glad to hear about this story as well. But there was a drone that helped find a missing Michigan woman who vanished after a casino trip, and she was stranded in the woods for 10 days. But they say that the drone is how they found her and everything like that. So I'm thinking that this drone technology could be very handy. We know it's handy in wars like in the Ukraine war and everything like that. But apparently it's also helping find missing people, because this was some
Yeah,
7 years ago.
in LA and across California, we need to be deploying those to hover over during fire season to catch fires faster than people can catch them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they're definitely very effective. Hey, Sasha, my question for you, and I know you got the show coming up shortly, but I did see that both sides seem to be moving into each other's territory. So it looks like Russia is amassing forces on Donbass, but it also looks like Ukraine has gone into Russia territory. So what is this saying in terms of the length of the war, and also any talks of a ceasefire? Because I did see that it looks like Belgorod, I believe it is where Ukraine has moved into, and then I guess Russia is amassing forces on Donbass.
Ceasefire is the biggest problem for Ukrainian army right now, because if it wouldn't be for ceasefire, they would mount incredible offense and would crush Russian defense forces, and not only around Belgorod or Kursk, but in many other things. Ukraine today already stronger army than Russian army, and all what Trump is trying is to help Putin to get out of this horrible situation where he is. His economy is done. His army is not good. It's good for nothing, actually. The Russian army, if you take 10 people of Russian army against 10 people of Ukrainian army, the Russian soldiers are much smaller physically. They are not physically developed into anything, because they're like 17, 18 years old, malnourished. They never had a good meal in their life. They're very small, they're very unhealthy, they're very weak. So Russian army avoids head-to-head fights with Ukrainian, because they just cannot fight Ukrainians, period. And if it wouldn't be for Trump, Ukrainian army probably would take a good chunk of Russian territory already. They don't need to defend their territory that Russians are trying to annex, because there is nothing to defend anymore. Russians destroyed everything what was there, or the villages, towns, children killing every day. It's all gone. There is nothing to defend anymore. So Ukrainian army will do their best to take as much as possible of Russian territory and declare it as a part of Ukraine. And then even US will not be able to, and Trump will not be able to do anything.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. And like I said, we'll have more discussion about that on the show and everything that's coming up at 11 o'clock, which will be in about 12 minutes or something like that. Hey, Nick, you're over there in Spain, and the other story that I brought up earlier was that Europe just had the warmest March on record. So are you ready to be in the middle of a heat wave later on and everything? Because apparently they're saying that y'all are going to have a harsher heat wave and wildfires this summer. So you moved from the U.S. and the south of North Carolina to Spain, but apparently you moved from one hotbed to another.
But the thing is, we're not like California. There's no trees here that can just burn the place down to the cinder. So it's not a concern really in the Barcelona area. So I'm not. It has been warm. It's been really nice in the Iberian Peninsula. The real problem you have with Spain is too many people are moving in. I mean, too many visitors, too many people moving in, because it has the great climate, the great atmosphere that LA used to have before the liberals destroyed it. So we have a really good climate here, a really good place to live. The people are well behaved, and it's just a fantastic place to. It reminds me of what California was dreaming to be before it was turned into a liberal cinder block, which it exists today. High taxes, high crime, places burned down, earthquakes all over the place. Who wants to go to California? Then you spend a lot of money there. Why would you do that when you could live in beautiful Spain, get all the benefits, and you don't have to have all the drawbacks, and you don't need Hollywood anymore? They make movies here. They have a great one out called The Lady's Companion. If you haven't seen it, on Netflix.
Yeah, but Spain got rid of the golden visa. How are you going to do? You got in before the deadline. Spain is.
No, they have different types of visas. What they did is they canned their golden visa. Their golden visa was only 500,000, not 5 million. But they have the digital nomad visa. That's the one I got. And they also have
nomad gets you into every country.
Yeah, nomad gets you into every country. So that's a
good thing. So the thing is, I can go throughout the European Union, and I also come back to the United States, which is the advantage of having visas, that you have unlimited times at both.
Well, speaking of Spain, and Nick, you'll be glad to know that the women who were on the show did get back in touch with me. They will be starting their show on Thursday. I think it'll be in a couple of weeks. So they will be exploring the life between Spain and Florida. So they have agreed to do that show, and they've sent me emails. They've also got some program that they want us to do.
Let me know, because I want to watch it. I want to see what the Spanish people really think of the Americans since you guys decided to elect Donald Trump.
Yeah, we'll find out what they think about Miami.
Really
what they think about
to put their foot down about this SAVE Act. I don't know what it's really actually saving us. I mean, we have to, we all have a driver's license. I think if you have a driver's license and it says on there you're a U.S. citizen, then you're a U.S. citizen because you proved you are. Right now we have to have that. We have to have a passport. We have to have so many different. We have a voter's card, people. We have a voter's card that qualified you to vote. I don't know what more they are doing, or are they just creating their own jobs to justify their own existence? I mean, it just makes no sense, because we're not saving anything by doing this, except, oh, wait, maybe we're eliminating all of the dead people that were collecting Social Security checks.
There's no dead people.
Maybe those are the people. But you know what? We just eliminated them because Doge is getting rid of them. So we don't need that either. Those dead people won't be voting anymore. I promise you that.
Yeah, they can't vote anymore and everything.
The voter ID stuff is only used to suppress votes.
Exactly. It's to disenfranchise people. Exactly.
It's to encourage people to vote. It tells people, hey, look, I have the sacred thing called a voter's ID card. It makes people feel good about themselves.
Just point out the studies that have been done around this. It is used and has been used in the past. It's the same thing as poll taxes and all the other things in our history that is used to disenfranchise voters.
Exactly.
And it actually hits the minority community the hardest, especially because some of the actual items that they're asking for, some of the people in the minority community do not have access to those things. Therefore, you're disenfranchising minority voters because they tend to vote the way you don't want them to vote. That is what the Republican Party does to push the voter ID laws.
That's right.
That's why. It's just voter suppression.
I just want to say, you may be able to censor us, but you can't silence us. We will rise up. If there are more people who can be hurt by all these things that are happening than there are those who benefit from it. So rise up. And again, you may be able to censor some of us from speaking, but you can't silence us. You may be able to ban our history, and you may be able to ban our books and cut out the books, but Hitler tried it. And what happened to him? Hitler did these very exact same things. And you know what? If I said the word Hitler on TikTok, my site would be brought down immediately. But I can say it on Pod TV, because we're not going to silence you from saying true things that are part of our history. You're not going to ban the books either. In fact, I might go find all the books that Hitler Trump is banning and put them for sale on Pod TV.
Is YouTube going to ban us again because you said the word Hitler? I mean, is that really?
YouTube, it hasn't started that, but TikTok does ban people for comparing Trump to Hitler or even using the word Hitler. If you use the word female, your site will be taken down. If you use the word constitutional rights, they bring you down. If you say somebody died or committed suicide, they bring you down. So, I mean, they've got this long list of words that they take people down for.
Yeah, we should get a handle on all these IDs and just get one ID. I get really
That's
tired.
That's what I'm saying. Driver's
I got to
license.
take my passport.
Or
I got to
ID.
get my birth certificate. I've got to get my driver's license. I mean, just what I want is another
passport, voter's card. I mean, what the hell is a voter's card for?
There's
They're not
way
going to
too
let
many.
us
The
use
voter
it to
card is
vote.
only for voting because I don't think you can use that voter card for anything
No,
else.
but it's
I know
not
for
even
that.
used for voting because now they're, disenfranchising everything with a new law. If we
Yeah.
wouldn't need a new law if they used the voter's card. Makes no sense to me at all.
Doesn't make any sense at all. I did have a question for Rick based on with the first story that I brought up and everything, and it's happened in a number of places, and it's actually somewhat geared toward you as well, Kim, because you're involved in making sure that things are safe and all along those lines. But if you were to visit a foreign country, are you going to any nightclubs? Because there was that nightclub that fell in Dominican Republic. I remember there was another one. I think it was in Europe. There was the Pulse nightclub. So are you going to any nightclubs? Because
I
apparently
used
they're
to love.
I'm
Hold
not
on, hold on,
traveling to
whoa,
any
whoa, 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 whoa,
countries
whoa, whoa.
right
Yes, so I'm going to be 65 in a few weeks. So my nightclub days are over unless I hope I get when the Olympics come to LA. I hope to get a job checking IDs in bars. I love doing that, but I'll be 68, so I don't know if they want to hire an ancient bouncer.
You just have to be healthy. As a bouncer, you just need to have your mental facilities as well as your physical facilities. I mean, being a bouncer, you need to be able to stand your ground, think things through.
I never stood. I always ended up on the ground. Like people, I went down pretty easy, but that's fine if there's a fight and you never walk into the middle of a fight because then you'll get hit from both sides. You come up behind one of the fighters, you grab them or you shove them away. And I generally grab somebody.
Disadvantage one and try to stop the situation, kind of like a dog fight. But I will say this: I'm not traveling to any countries right now because there's just too much chaos and uncertainty, and I certainly do not want to become, like the cartel's sushi because they're mad at the United States. And then they just take any American. I mean, right now, a lot of countries are so angry at what's happening that they're accusing all of us for voting for this. And I know that the intelligent people know that's not true, but I'm not going to any country right now until this chaos has calmed down. And every day I look at travel advisories, and every day more and more travel advisories from other countries are popping up. So
also nightclubs, they were good in the 80s and the 90s.
yes, they are.
Because that's where you went to meet people to hook up with. Now you can stay home and just use your phone and hook up over your phone.
Yeah.
And avoid ceilings collapsing. And a couple of weeks ago 60 people were killed they set off fireworks.
What about that couple that went missing in 2005? It was, two friends who met at a bar. Neither one of them made it home that night. I mean,
right. So
and have been missing ever since. So, I mean, bars are not any more safe or danger than the online
but you
stuff.
can get scammed.
Yeah.
Just as
online.
easily over your phone online. You meet somebody, she's from Russia, she wants to get out, but her mom's sick, so you have to keep wiring her $12,000, and you will never get that Russian bride. But that's maybe preferable to getting stabbed in an alley outside a nightclub.
Well, and I mean, we just heard about the young boy who stabbed another one at the racetrack, and we don't know the full details of that either because people can assume everything they want, but they have no idea.
Oh, speaking of stabbing, so the way we have a bunch of shootings in the U.S. because we have a ton of guns. England.
But they're not reporting them.
Hold on. England has a ton of stabbings, and there's a really good show called Adolescence, which is it's a 4-episode show that looks at a case of a kid on kid stabbing as it moves
I'm
through.
going to watch
legal.
that. I
It's
just saw
really
that
good.
on my.
The acting is really good. Each episode is one long, hour-long shot where the camera never cuts away. It's a pretty amazing show about a depressing situation.
It's just to go to show you good directing is more about the means to express the story. You don't have to have a lot of cameras, a lot of action, and a lot of different things going on at one time to have a good story and TV show or movie. Meanwhile, we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to have to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bring us your questions. Bring us your stories. We would love to hear them from around the world and share them to the world. Meanwhile, everyone, take care and stay wealthy so you stay healthy.